What if I told you that vision and balance are connected with each other? We're going to explore this in this first episode of Steal This Brain Idea. I am Dr. Sharina Rice, and I am fascinated by how the nervous system makes sense of reality. To explore this topic, let's do an experiment together. Get up out of your seat if it is safe to do so, and stand on one foot. This is simple enough, but if you try doing this with your eyes closed, try doing it with your eyes closed if it is safe to do so, then it becomes substantially harder. And the reason why it's harder is that for sighted people, what happens is we usually anchor our attention to visual landmarks in our environment. And that allows us to determine where we are in space relative to them so that we can maintain a sense of balance by anchoring to fixed objects. But then if we don't have visual cues, then what do we have in order to figure out how to balance? After all, how do blind people stay balanced? One of the reasons why is because they shift their attention to other sensory systems and they rely on those instead of vision. So then one of these sensory systems is known as proprioception. Proprioception is the reason why I know how my arm is moving in space right now, and how I know where my leg is, and generally where my body is located in space. Then there is another sensory system, which is known as the vestibular system. This relies on signals that come from the inner ear, and they allow us to know what velocity our heads are moving at, and what acceleration. With that in mind, there comes the question of how do we use this information in order to maintain stability without vision? The answer is we shift our attention from the visual system to the proprioceptive system and the vestibular system such that we may remain stable. But what about cases in which there are conflicts between the visual system and the vestibular system? This happens when we are in motion sickness. For example, if we're reading a book and we're in a vehicle, then we might be reading with our eyes going in one direction while we are being transported in another direction. And then since these things are not aligned with each other, then that tells the nervous system that there is something wrong. And then it gives you motion sickness. Then there is the same problem, a similar problem, in virtual reality environments. So then, for example, if you're in a virtual reality environment and you are turning left and right very quickly in a visual space, but you're not actually moving your head along with it, then this may create a vestibular visual conflict, a mismatch, where you need to have this sort of alignment in order to have a good experience without feeling sick from it. So then, if you are in the car and you're reading a book, then you might find yourself feeling relief from the system by looking out the window and then having your visual signals and your vestibular signals in accord with each other, such that you know where you are in space and you are not experiencing two conflicting realities. Similarly, with virtual reality, if you want to design a really good extended reality system, then it's one in which there are not too many different realities happening at the same time, and where real realities are not too much in conflict with the visual scene. Furthermore, we can think about these things in terms of how robotics might make sense of the world. In robotics, there are sometimes experiences that happen where some kind of occlusion happens. For example, if a self-driving car has its computer vision camera covered up somehow by snow or by very heavy rainfall, then perhaps it can rely on some other system to allow it to know where it is and where it is in relation to other things around it. So think about sensors, think about how the experiences of humans in your loop are, And you may create realities that are accessible for all kinds of people and all kinds of nervous systems, whether artificial or natural.